I woke up to the gentle brush of lips on my cheek. Keon was already dressed in his crisp work shirt and slacks, his tie perfectly knotted, ready to rush out the door. The early morning light in our Atlanta bedroom was soft and pale, barely touching the window panes. His face held that familiar mix of apology and urgency I had seen too many times over the years. "I'm sorry, Zola," he whispered, leaning down to kiss me again, this time lingering a second longer. "They moved the big meeting up to 9. I'll try to get back as soon as I can, I promise. Today is your day." Our day. It was my 42nd birthday. Not a milestone that demanded fireworks, but Keon had always made my birthdays feel sacred. In 18 years of marriage, he had never once forgotten. He never failed to offer a gift, a handwritten card, or that special look that said everything words could not. I smiled, though disappointment flickered inside me like a candle in a draft. "It's fine," I said, sitting up against the pillows. "Work is work. I get it." He kissed me one last time on the lips, and I caught the familiar scent of his cologne, the woody, spicy one I had bought him for our wedding anniversary 3 years ago. He had never changed it. Loyalty to small things was classic Keon. "Tonight," he promised, "we'll have time just for the two of us. I'll make your favorite dish, roasted sea bass, and open that bottle of wine we always save for celebrations. Everything will be perfect." When the front door clicked shut behind him, I lay there staring at the ceiling. 42. By this age, my mother had already had my younger sister and me, built a career, and bought a condo. What had I accomplished? I had a husband who loved me, a solid job as a senior claims analyst at a major insurance firm, and a comfortable home in a decent Atlanta neighborhood. We could never have children, but Keon and I had accepted that long ago. It had drawn us closer, two against the world, our small, unbreakable fortress. I showered, brewed strong coffee, and tried to shake off the weekday birthday melancholy. Everyone else would be busy with their routines. Only Keon and a few close people would remember it was special. At the office, my colleague, Brianna, surprised me with a small bouquet of lilies and a slice of lemon. Cake from the bakery downstairs. We celebrated quietly in the break room, sipping coffee and laughing about our boss's latest eccentric demands. It felt warm and familiar. But my thoughts kept drifting to the evening ahead. Keon in the kitchen, candlelight. That special California Cabernet Reserve we had turned into our family ritual. We had discovered the wine on our first anniversary, picking it randomly from a specialty store. One sip and we were hooked. From then on, it marked every celebration. Birthdays, anniversaries, New Year's Eve. Always the same bottle. Same label, same deep notes of cherry, oak and spice. It reminded us of simpler times when the future felt wide open. I left work around 6 and drove home through Atlanta's evening traffic. The moment I stepped inside, the aroma of roasted sea bass and herbs wrapped around me like a hug. Keon was already there. My heart swelled. Dependable Keon. "Zola!" he called from the kitchen. "You're home. Great. Go get dressed up. I'm almost finished." I changed into the deep blue dress he loved, touched up my makeup and let my hair fall loose. In the mirror, fine lines framed my eyes, and a few gray strands showed at my temples despite regular coloring. 42 was neither young nor old, just that strange in-between where illusions about the future had faded but hope remained. When I entered the dining room, the table was perfect. White cloth, candles flickering, beautiful china, roasted sea bass, fresh salad, warm cornbread, and in the center our traditional wine. Keon embraced me. "Only the best for my favorite woman," he murmured, kissing the top of my head. He opened the bottle with practiced ease. The pop was familiar. He poured 2 glasses, set mine before me, and took his seat. "To you, Zola," he toasted, raising his glass. "To my love, my beauty, my wife, for being with me all these years, for giving meaning to my life." I smiled, eyes misting with simple domestic joy. We clinked glasses. I lifted mine to my lips but paused. The aroma was wrong. Beneath the usual cherry, oak, and spice lurked something bitter, chemical, almost medicinal. I froze. This scent I knew by heart. I could pick it out blindfolded among hundreds of bottles. But tonight it was off, subtle, yet unmistakable. Keon had already sipped his. He smiled expectantly. "Is something wrong?" I sniffed again. Definitely strange. Maybe the bottle had spoiled, but we stored it properly. Or perhaps a new batch. Yet the alarm in my gut wouldn't quiet. What if something was in my glass specifically? The thought felt insane. Keon, after 18 years? I looked at him across the table. He ate calmly, no hint of nerves. I felt foolish, but the smell persisted. Keon, I said, trying to sound casual, I think I accidentally picked up your glass. Let's switch. He looked mildly surprised. Are you sure? I think we both have our own. No, I'm certain I mixed them up, I insisted, offering him my glass and taking his. For a split second, surprise? Irritation flickered across his face before he shrugged. All right. I inhaled from his glass, pure, perfect Cabernet. No chemical note. My pulse raced. So the anomaly was only in my original glass. Keon sipped from the switched glass without hesitation. His face stayed neutral. See? Normal. You must be tired, Zola. Too much stress. We continued dinner. The fish was delicious. I drank from his glass and it tasted fine. We talked about work, weekend plans, a new series. Everything seemed ordinary. Yet I watched him closely. How he held the glass. How often he drank. About 10 minutes later, mid-sentence about a late employee, Keon stopped abruptly. His face paled. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Keon, my heart dropped. Are you okay? He wiped his face. I feel strange. Head spinning. I rushed to him. His skin was cold and damp. Pulse erratic. He complained of nausea, dizziness, chest pressure. Panic rose as I dialed 911. The paramedics arrived quickly. They noted poisoning symptoms, took him to the hospital. In the emergency room, I waited on a hard plastic chair while they pumped his stomach and ran tests. A young doctor finally emerged. Your husband is stable. Preliminary results show high levels of barbiturates, sedatives, in his system. In large doses, they cause respiratory depression, coma, even death. He was lucky. Barbiturates. Keon didn't take sleeping pills. He slept like a rock. The doctor asked, does he take any sedatives? No, I said. Never. Then how did they get there? The words left my mouth before I could stop them. I think someone put them in my wine. We switched glasses. The doctor frowned. Intentional poisoning? We'll have to involve the police. Police. Investigation. My birthday had become a nightmare. Keon lay in ICU, pale on oxygen and IVs. I held his hand, tears falling. I'm sorry I suspected you, I whispered. But doubt lingered. Only he had been home before me. Only he had poured the wine. At home later that night, I examined the bottle. The label had a tiny glue smudge, as if peeled and reattached. I called the liquor store. The clerk confirmed the bottle was sealed and perfect when sold around 5 p.m. So it had been tampered with after purchase, during the hour Keon was home alone. My mind raced. 6 months ago, Keon had pushed for large life insurance policies. $500,000 each. Sensible, he said. Now it felt sinister. If I died, he would collect a fortune. Plus, recent months he had been distant. Protective of his phone, late nights at work. I saved the wine remnants in labeled zip bags in the fridge. The police would need them. Next morning, I gave my statement to Detective Sterling, a tired man in his 50s with sharp gray eyes. I told him everything. The wine, the switch, Keon's sudden illness, barbiturates, damaged label, insurance, recent behavioral changes. Sterling noted it all. Money and affairs were classic motives, he said. He would investigate Keon's finances, phone, computer, and also old leads like Keon's ex Veronica Dubois, who had threatened him 18 years ago. At the hospital, Keon looked better. He confessed he had lost his job 4 months earlier, lied about it, taken a $40,000 loan using our condo as collateral, and spent days at a distant coffee shop. Shame had kept him silent. I confronted him. Was it easier to kill me for the insurance? His horror seemed genuine. I would die before hurting you, Zola. I wanted to believe him. But facts pointed his way. Access, motive, opportunity. The police now considered him the main suspect. The days after Detective Sterling cleared, Keon of the poisoning attempt felt like walking on cracked ice. Every step could shatter everything again. Serafina Dubois had confessed. She admitted buying phenobarbital online from a dark web supplier, tampering with our traditional wine bottle. In the few minutes she spent at our condo, under the pretense of returning forgotten documents, she had slipped into the dining room while Keon was in the kitchen, added the drug to my glass only, then left before he noticed anything unusual. Her motive was cold and calculated. Eliminate me. Collect the $500,000 insurance payout. She planned to pressure Keon into marrying her afterward and start the new life she believed he wanted. The detective showed me parts of her recorded confession. Her voice was calm, almost detached, as if discussing a business plan rather than attempted murder. He was never going to leave her, she said on the tape. He felt too guilty. The only clean way was for her to disappear. Hearing it made my stomach turn. This woman had sat beside me in Piedmont Park just days earlier, looking me in the eye, telling me Keon still loved me despite the affair. She had lied with the ease of someone who had rehearsed every word. Keon was officially cleared. No charges, no suspicion of complicity. Yet the relief I expected never fully arrived, because even if he hadn't tried to kill me, he had still lied for months about losing his job, about the loan, about the daily afternoons spent at the Daily Grind coffee shop with Serafina. The betrayal wasn't murder. It was erosion. Slow, steady, invisible, until the foundation cracked. We tried to talk, really talk. The first night he was home from the hospital, we sat at the kitchen table, same chairs where we had once planned vacations, celebrated small wins, dreamed about adopting someday. Now the air felt thick. "I'm not asking you to forgive me overnight," he said, voice low. "I know I broke something that might never be fixed. But I want you to know the affair wasn't about replacing you. I was drowning, job gone, feeling useless at 45. I didn't know how to tell you. Serafina was there, same boat, same shame. It started as coffee, then support, then I don't even know when it crossed the line. I hated myself every time I came home and kissed you goodnight. I stared at my hands. You described our marriage as habit, something you wanted to escape." He winced. "I said that to justify it to myself. It wasn't true. I never stopped loving you. I just stopped liking who I'd become." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part wanted to hold him and tell him we could fix it. Mostly I felt numb. The police returned the wine bottle and glasses after analysis. I couldn't bring myself to throw them away. Instead, I wrapped them carefully and stored them in a high cabinet, like evidence of a life that had almost ended. Brianna came over almost every evening for the first week. She brought takeout, sat with me on the couch, let me cry or rage or sit in silence. "You don't have to decide anything right now," she kept saying. "Just breathe." But breathing felt impossible when every quiet moment brought the same loop. The smell in the wine, the switch of glasses, Keon collapsing, the barbiturates meant for me, and underneath it all, the newer wound, his daughter. He had confessed that too, the night after Serafina's arrest. We were in the living room, lights low. He couldn't meet my eyes. 15 years ago, he started, I worked on a big commercial project. Interior designer on the team was Lenora Hayes. We got close. Too close. I knew it was wrong from the beginning, but I didn't stop. When she told me she was pregnant, I panicked, offered money for an abortion. She refused, said she would raise the baby alone. I agreed to stay out of the picture publicly. I paid child support through a private account. Saw Danica, our daughter, maybe 4 or 5 times a year. Birthdays, holidays, always as Uncle Keon. 14 years old. That meant Danica was conceived 4 years after our wedding. While I was doing fertility tests, taking temperatures, crying in doctors' offices because month after month there was no baby. Keon already had one. Hidden. A whole parallel life. "Why didn't you tell me?" My voice cracked. "Even after we accepted we couldn't have children." "You could have told me then." "Because I was terrified you'd leave. And because I convinced myself it was kinder to keep the secret. You were already hurting. I didn't want to add more pain." I laughed bitterly. "Kinder? You let me believe the problem was me. For years." He had no defense. Just tears. The next morning I told him I needed space. He packed a small bag and moved to a friend's guest room downtown. The condo felt too big, too quiet. I wandered from room to room, touching things we had chosen together. The blue couch, the framed photo from our honeymoon in Savannah, the wine rack still holding 3 more bottles of that same California Cabernet. I couldn't look at them. Work became my anchor. I threw myself into claims files, spreadsheets, meetings. Brianna noticed the exhaustion in my face and insisted I take a few personal days. I refused. Staying busy was the only thing keeping the thoughts at bay. Then the anonymous email arrived. It had landed 2 days before my birthday, before the poisoned wine, but I only saw it now because I was finally clearing out my spam folder. No subject. Sender, a string of random letters and numbers. I almost deleted it. Instead, I opened it. If you want to know the truth about what happened, come to Piedmont Park tomorrow at 3 p.m., the bench next to the fountain. Come alone. My pulse spiked. Someone had known something was coming. A warning? A trap? I forwarded it to Detective Sterling immediately. He called within minutes. We'll try to trace it, but expect a burner account and VPN. If you go, and I'm not recommending it, we'll have plainclothes officers nearby. One tap on your phone and they move in. I decided to go. The park was quiet that afternoon. Autumn leaves skittered across the paths. I sat on the designated bench, pretending to scroll through my phone, heart hammering. At 3:12, a woman approached, mid-20s, dark sunglasses, scarf covering most of her hair. She sat beside me without preamble. Zola? Yes, who are you? Callista. I worked with Keon and Serafina at the firm. I know what really happened that night. She spoke quickly, glancing around. Serafina hadn't just seduced Keon. She had orchestrated everything. She learned about our life insurance policies, perhaps from overhearing. Keon, on a call, saw an opportunity. She pushed the affair forward, whispered that divorce would be messy and expensive, but widowhood would be clean. $500,000. A fresh start. The day of your birthday, Callista continued, Serafina went to your condo. She told Keon she needed to drop off some old project files he'd left at her place. He let her in. They talked for maybe 2 minutes at the door. Then he went back to cooking. She lingered, supposedly adjusting her shoes. Instead, she walked into the dining room, saw the 2 poured glasses on the table, and dropped the phenobarbital into yours. Quick, clean. She was gone before he came back out. I felt sick. How do you know this? She told me. We were close, used to vent to each other after layoffs. The day before your birthday, she confessed the whole plan, said it was the only way. I begged her not to do it, told her she was insane. She laughed, said I didn't understand how much she loved him. And you didn't warn me? Didn't call the police? Callista looked down. I thought she was venting, fantasizing. I didn't believe she'd actually go through with it. When I heard Keon was in the hospital, I realized she had. I was terrified. If I spoke up and she found out, I could be next. But I couldn't live with the guilt of letting an innocent man take the fall. I stared at her. You're risking a lot telling me this. I know, but you deserve the truth. And Keon, he's not a killer. Weak? Yes. A liar? Absolutely. But not a murderer. She stood. Be careful. Serafina is smart, ruthless. If she thinks you're onto her. She didn't finish. She just walked away, disappearing into the crowd. The plainclothes officer approached moments later. We got audio. It's not enough on its own. Her word against Serafina's, but it's a strong lead. We'll bring Serafina in again. Push harder. That evening I called Keon. He answered on the first ring. I met someone today, I said. From your old firm. She says Serafina acted alone. That you didn't know. Silence. Then a choked sound. Zola. I swear I didn't. I would never. I know, I cut in. I believe you. About the poisoning, at least. We met the next day in a small cafe near his friend's place. He looked wrecked, unshaven, eyes red. We talked for hours. He cried when I told him about Callista's account. He cried harder when I asked about Danica. She's 14, he said. Smart, kind, looks just like me, which kills me every time I see her. I've been a ghost in her life. Child support, occasional visits. That's it. I told myself I was protecting you by keeping it secret. Really, I was protecting myself. I didn't respond right away. The anger was still there, but it shared space with something else. Pity, maybe. Or exhaustion. The detective says Serafina's email records show the purchase. She's crumbling. They'll charge her formally soon. Keon nodded numbly. I'll testify if they need me. Whatever it takes. We sat in silence after that. 2 people who had once finished each other's sentences, now searching for words that wouldn't cut deeper. When I got home, I opened my laptop and searched Danica's name on social media. Her profile was private, but the profile picture showed a teenage girl with Keon's eyes and a shy smile. I stared at it until my vision blurred. A child, innocent, paying for adult mistakes. I closed the laptop and lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling the way I had the morning of my birthday. Everything felt different now. The poisoning had been solved. The real poison, the lies, the secrets, still coursed through our lives. But for the first time since that night, I felt a small, fragile possibility, maybe the truth, however brutal, was the beginning of something. Not the same marriage. Not even close. but perhaps something rebuilt from honest pieces instead of beautiful illusions. I didn't know yet if I could forgive Keon. I didn't know if I wanted to try. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let Serafina or anyone else steal the rest of my life. The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and quiet hope. I walked beside Lenora, each step heavier than the last. She had given me Danica's room number in a soft voice, as if afraid loud words might shatter the fragile moment we were about to share. When we reached the door, Lenora paused. "She knows you're coming," she said. "I told her you're a friend of the family who wants to help. She's excited and scared." I nodded, throat tight. Then I pushed the door open. Danica was propped up in the narrow bed, monitors beeping softly beside her. She looked smaller than I had imagined. 14 years old, but with the delicate frame of someone who had spent too much time fighting her own body. Her brown eyes, Keon's eyes, lifted to meet mine. The resemblance was so striking it stole my breath. Same shape, same warmth, same faint crinkle at the corners when she tried to smile. "Hi," she said. Her voice was thin but clear. "You're Zola, right?" "Yes." I stepped closer, forcing my legs to move. "That's me." She studied me for a long moment. "Mom said you're Dad's wife. The one he's been married to forever." I swallowed. "That's right." A small laugh escaped her, more breath than sound. "It's kind of weird, huh? Like I have this whole other family I never met." "Yeah," I managed. "Kind of weird." I sat in the chair beside her bed. Up close, I could see the bluish tint under her fingernails, the way her chest rose and fell with careful effort. She didn't look like someone dying, but the truth hung between us anyway. "Mom told me about the surgery," she said after a silence, "and how expensive it is. She said maybe you could help." I told her not to ask you. "It's not fair." I reached out and took her hand. It was cool, small, fragile. "It's okay that she asked, and it's okay that I'm here." Danica looked down at our joined hands. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," I squeezed gently. "I know you're 14 and you want to live. That's all I need to know." Her eyes filled. She blinked hard, trying not to let the tears fall. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Not just of the operation, of not waking up, of leaving Mom alone, of never getting to do normal stuff, like go to prom or college or just be a regular teenager." The words cracked something wide open inside me. All the anger I had nursed toward Keon, toward Lenora, toward the years of secrets. It dissolved in the face of this one honest, terrified girl. She hadn't asked to be born from an affair. She hadn't asked to carry a faulty heart. She was just a child who wanted more time. "You're going to have that surgery," I told her. "I'm going to make sure of it." Her eyes widened. "Really?" "Really." She started crying then, quiet, hiccuping sobs. I leaned forward and wrapped my arms around her as best I could with the IV lines and monitors. She clung to me like I was a lifeline. In that moment, she wasn't Keon's secret daughter or Lenora's burden. She was just Danica, and I wanted her to live. When I left the room, Lenora was waiting in the hallway. Tears streamed down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "I know I have no right to ask for this. I know what I did to your marriage." "Stop," I held up a hand. "This isn't about you, or Keon, it's about her." Lenora nodded, wiping her cheeks. "The hospital needs a deposit soon. They can schedule the surgery within 2 weeks if the funds are there. I'll handle it." I took out a loan against my half of the condo equity, $50,000. It wasn't easy. Paperwork, credit checks, long conversations with the bank, but I signed every page without hesitation. 2 weeks later, Danica went into surgery. 8 hours. Keon, Lenora, and I sat in the waiting room together. We barely spoke. Sometimes Keon reached for my hand. Sometimes I let him take it. Mostly we just waited, each lost in our own prayers. When the surgeon finally emerged, scrubbed sweat-stained, he smiled tiredly. "The procedure went well. She's stable. She'll need recovery time, but the defect is repaired. She's going to be okay." Relief hit like a wave. Lenora collapsed against Keon, sobbing. He held her, tears running down his own face. I stood apart, arms wrapped around myself, feeling something close to peace for the first time in months. Danica recovered faster than anyone expected. Within weeks she was home, color returning to her cheeks, strength coming back day by day. I visited twice a week, brought books, fresh fruit, silly puzzle magazines. We talked about school, music, her dream of studying marine biology someday. She never once asked about the money or the past. She just treated me like family. Keon and I met one crisp afternoon in Piedmont Park, the same park where I had once confronted Serafina, where Callista had given me the truth. We sat on a bench near the fountain. The leaves were turning gold and red. "I can't stay married to you," I said quietly. He nodded as if he had known this was coming. "I understand. It's not because I hate you. I don't. I loved you, deeply, for a very long time. But too much has been broken, too many secrets. I can't keep wondering if there's another layer waiting to surface. I need to trust again, and I can't do that here." He looked out over the water. "I don't blame you. I destroyed the best thing in my life, piece by piece. I'm not angry anymore," I continued. "Not like I was, helping Danica. It changed something in me. I realized holding on to resentment was poisoning me more than any barbiturate ever could. I forgive you, Keon, for the affair, for the lies, for Danica. I forgive you." He turned to me, eyes shining. "Thank you. That means more than you know." We sat in silence for a while, hands not quite touching. Then I stood. "I'll always care about you," I said. "And I'll always root for Danica. But I need to build something new, for me." He rose too. "I'm going to marry Lenora. Not because I'm in love with her the way I was with you, but because Danica deserves stability, a real family. And I owe them that." I nodded. "Be good to them." "I will." We hugged, brief, careful, final. Then I walked away without looking back. The divorce was quiet, amicable. We sold the condo, split the proceeds, paid off the loans, including the one I had taken for Danica's surgery. Keon moved into a small apartment near Lenora and Danica. He started seeing his daughter every day. He went to therapy. He found a modest job at a local firm. He was trying. I bought a one-bedroom studio in the suburbs. Small, bright, mine. I enrolled in a painting class on Wednesday evenings, something I had always wanted to do but never made time for. I started traveling, weekend drives to Savannah, Asheville, Charleston. Just me, the road, and whatever music I felt like hearing. A year after the divorce, I met Maurice at a community book club. He was a high school history teacher, divorced, 2 grown children, quiet, steady, no secrets in his eyes. We started as friends, coffee after meetings, long walks in the park. There was no rush, no fireworks, just comfort, trust, the slow bloom of something real. Keon and Lenora married quietly 2 years after our divorce. Danica was the flower girl. She sent me a photo, her in a pale blue dress, beaming between them. I smiled when I saw it. I was happy for her. Serafina was sentenced to 12 years. I didn't attend the trial. I didn't need to. Justice had been served, and I had moved beyond needing vengeance. Now, on quiet mornings, I sit by my window with coffee and watch the sun rise over rooftops. I think about that birthday, the strange smell in the wine, the switch of glasses, the night that broke everything open. It was the end of one life and the beginning of another. I still see Danica sometimes. She's 17 now, tall, healthy, full of plans. Last summer, she hugged me at her high school graduation and whispered, "Thank you for my life." I cried then, happy tears. She doesn't call me stepmother or anything formal. She just calls me Zola, and that's enough. Forgiveness isn't erasure, it's release. I released the bitterness so I could breathe again. I released Keon so he could become a better father. I released the version of myself who believed love had to be perfect to be real. Life isn't perfect. It's messy, painful, beautiful, contradictory. Sometimes it hands you poisoned wine. Sometimes it hands you a second chance. I chose the second chance, and every day I'm grateful I did.